GW doesn't understand orcs. And that's in question mark because I'll leave it to the community in chat because, of course, I'm still going to read chat after this. It'll be a long one, boys. Does GW understand orc? Is the question here. Now, this isn't to cause hate, talk down on GW necessarily. This is a true question. When we look at some of the points we've already covered in this video, when we speak of the versatility of confusion in the Big Mac, the bomb squig nerfs being taken off at the knees, detachments that were literally the best becoming the worst or least played once GW touched them. So Bully Boys, Green Tide, for example, and more DACA. Once GW did its balance, quote unquote, you absolutely balanced nothing. You dropped a nuke on these detachments, and then the reverberations were so bad and so concussive because you don't know what you're doing with orcs that you affected other detachments like Green Tide and Dread Mob, and then inevitably you were still able to mess with Warhorde just based off the fact that you balanced other armies and you were balancing us, but then you left a bunch of predators like Knights and Death Guard just kind of roam the meta and cause a muck. So it was very inconsistent. It was not well thought out. You hit us with double nerfs. So you have to be brought under this question and scrutiny because we are under unique circumstances as an orc faction and army. So I do give GW credence that at least we have a lot of detachments. So I could understand if you messed up even half of them, but you messed up all of them to a certain degree. You really did. Now, I would say that Tactical Brigade can still be played, and so did Warhorde, like I said earlier in the video, but you actually made them less fun. You made them less fun, you made them less diverse, and lists started to look the same, and results started to plummet. And it was all by your hands. And we're in this unique case because we have so many detachments and a unique book, a deep book, excuse me. So we have a unique codex as a faction, and we have a unique detachment variety right alongside Marines, but we're not the poster child. So when we get all of this versatility and reliability, instead of being looked through and actually tweaked, GW just smacked us down to get out of the way and said, be happy with the new models we're giving you. So is it too soon for GW to admit it's wrong? Because like I said, they gave us a lot of new models. I won't say GW hates us because they don't. If you're new to orcs, don't give up on orcs simply because you think GW hates. That's definitely not the case. They give us great books and lore, a bunch of new model lines, a bunch of detachments. We're probably going to be the big bags next edition. So like I said, I'm not even talking big bad about GW in that way of like they hate orcs. I think they just don't know how to write our rules and don't take the time to try to learn it. Now, again, GW seems to think simple is best. They think that just because we're orc players and the Waaagh in their head is a simple army rule, right? They think that simply calling the Waaagh is light up all my stuff, right? If you watch GW, the actual app, TV, right? If you ever watch their bat reps, they look like I did when I was playing on my rug when I first started 8th edition at home with cardboard boxes and tissue paper. I would just line up on my dudes and call Waaagh. That's how they understand orcs. So when you look at our rules, they're like +1 to hit on Waaagh, +1 to shoot on Waaagh. Your unit gets to feel no pain on Waaagh. Like everything. Why would you make all of our rules only reliant on the Waaagh? Because you think it has to be simple. You think that we have to be simple and linear in that way. But then also, in a GW's opinion, hazardous is the only style of fun. So you're either giving us hazardous or more hazardous, right? It's like, here's a gun, but hazardous. And here's an ability, but hazardous. But on a bunch of different armies, whether it's from an aura or from an army rule or from characters nearby or what included, or they can have access to all of those same abilities and not be taking endless mortal wounds. But it's like, it's okay, I'll take mortals, but making them redundant and everywhere throughout our army, even on our data sheets, is boring. It's boring in the way of, it used to be fun when we were hazardous to the opponent too, right? Make us hazardous to where, sure, I'll blow up, but you blow up too, right? If I'm running 3 custom Mega Blasters and I blow up horribly, okay, I want more reliable that my actual Death Dread blows up too. What's up? You take some damage with me too. See, in that case, orcs like the hazardous and the randomness and the damage and the chaos. But if it's just you, then it just feels bad. So why is GW only looking at, let's just, hey, you used to take hazardous chest. That's fun, right? You can roll a lot of dice and then take more hazardous. It's like, all right, guys, I get it. It's fun. But we also want to have some reliable outcomes so we can win games, so we can have tactics and strategies and contingency plans. So it can't just simply be simple and hazardous, right? But on top of that, where's our horde? Where's our cheap list? I already showed you how Green Tide has virtually no players. And It's like GW doesn't even look at us as a horde army anymore. If you look at other horde detachments and builds, it's like, I'm not even hating on them, but they have strats that regen entire unit. That's what we used to have in 8th edition. And so GW took away that horde identity. We can regen just models, and then you wonder why the detachment can't function without me asking for a 5-up invuln at all times or a decreased cost on units. It's not that I'm, thirsty to just win and mob you with just boy bodies. It's there's no diversity within that boy body, but you're also not making it playable. And we're just punching bags for the opponents and picking up models. So we're of our cheap list, right? If we're gonna play which I actually think why people are kind of drawn to Cult of Speed is a style of cheap trading, always having waves of stuff army like Cult of Speed can do, where it's like, okay, my buggies are so cheap that I can throw them forward and they die, and I kind of have this rinse and repeat capability. Well, that's how we used to like to play Warhorde, and other detachments might want to play like that too, but we don't even have that option anymore. It's like we have to bring characters, and then if it's not just the characters, then we're just relying on the Waaagh. Where's the synergy and strategy and diversity in that? No aura abilities, no stacking potentials other than the kill rate giving +1 strength. There, you can't find that anywhere throughout the army. That's interesting. Of course, there's Gaz. I'm a big proponent of Gaz, critical 5+ ability, unbridled carnage to snag a boys in a 20-man unit. I know that, but we've had this in Zindax Hammer, right? And the fact that we still know it, we still love it, it's kind of showing my point, right? And if you disagree with me, let me know in the chat, because there's a bunch of people here and we're all talking. And of course, you're going to be in the comments after. Am I on my mind here? I don't think so. And like I said, I hardly ever complain, and I'm not trying to put GW down, but it's come to the time where I'm coming into question, do you know what you're doing with orcs? Because should orc units only impact the game during the Waaagh, right? A lot of the time people are like, well, after my Waaagh, my army's just straight up picked up. And before that, I'm pretty much just hiding until I can get picked up. Well, at least different detachments might not want to play that way. Yeah, like Tactical Brigade, for example. And that's what's another interesting part of Cult of Speed or Dread Mob is sometimes they can work a little bit outside of the Waaagh. But then, like we said, their units, like we were talking about Morkanauts and Gorkanauts, their data sheet abilities based off the Waaagh. Like, what? I have a mech, and I know that sometimes it can stack. I covered that in my video on how it can stack in like a proficient way if you're bracketed, but they didn't even make it in like +1 weapon skill, +1 ballistic skill on the Waaagh. You just get +1 to hit. You couldn't even be that thoughtful. So again, you brought into question, do you understand orcs? So that's just my opinion. It's not to be fully too negative, but I've mentioned a lot of the time. So here's my breakdown of it. I've finally come to the realization that I have to call into question, does GW understand orcs? I know the orc community doesn't understand orcs. I know that for a fact. For a multitude of reasons, but I'm not going to try to bag on the community because I don't understand other factions too. So that's fine. But GW is the one who did this. And when the other community banned us, it was because we were the only faction that was bullying, and they were worried because it was just orcs shooting them, and that feels bad. That happened in past editions. So they were suffering from PTSD, I'll say. But that's still not an excuse for them not handling the community itself, not handling the other super strong factions that were happening as well. So that being said, that's why I'm focused on James Workshop and understanding us, not does the community understand us, even though that's also something that I would agree with that they don't. But that's okay, because not everyone's meant to. But GW, James Workshop, when they're balancing, quote unquote, there should be some balance in there, not just straight nuclear impact of biased nature. It's just silly. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!